Hey guys, welcome to another New World video. In today's video, I want to talk about the Forged in Eternum video that was released today, where the team discusses new features and the difficulties surrounding implementing them into the live game. So let's get into it. So they begin the video by addressing the server cap limitations and why they exist. The first big issue they address is lag. The amount of information that would have to be sent and received by them to and from the clients would become massive, and they say it would clog the pipes. I have to say that this is probably true. Whenever there is something huge like the world bosses at Halloween or during the winter event launch, this becomes quite evident. They also address the fact that bots and other players already make gathering resources tough on servers, because they're not instanced. So imagine a server with 30k players. It would be flat out impossible to get anything really, and of course that I also completely agree with. And finally, the problem with wars and territory control. There simply is not enough territories to go around with that many players. Now, I agree with them on almost every point here, but I also am a bit biased, because I don't think having that many players on our server would in any way be a good idea. The game wasn't designed for it. Everything is just way too limited. However, blaming it on this idea that because it is action combat and the other big games who do host many players are tab target is a bit of a cop-out. I mean, being honest here, I think what they should say is, although they never would, is that their engine can't handle it, because other games like Black Desert, Vindicus, even Age of Conan back in 2008, all had action combat very much like New World, with no issues in a huge, massively multiplayer world. Now, don't misunderstand, I am not trying to bash them. I actually feel bad for these devs most of the time. I'm 100% sure that they are told what to say and how, because the interests of the corporation come first. So they have to describe real limitations they are up against without ever talking in a negative or perceived negative way about the engine. But in the end, for me, I don't think population per server is a real issue right now. The next thing they talked about was of course the mannequins in the home to store gear. They laughed about this because people want it quickly and assume it is easy. Now I agree, I am sure it isn't easy, but I can also see where the perception comes from if you follow survival games or anything related. For example, in Conan Exiles, a survival game built in very much the same way as New World. People back in 2017 wanted mannequins very badly to add to their houses because many of the gear sets were so cool looking, but useless. So having them on display would be cool. Funcom of course responded with a dev video with the exact same answer. It isn't easy and probably not even possible because of the lag, loading in all the sets, etc, which was even more believable in that case because Conan did not limit you. You could place 5,000 mannequins in a row if you wished, unlike New World that would limit you probably to 4 or 5. But then a kid over a weekend opened the dev kit and made a mod for Conan adding mannequins. And of course mannequins for horses to store and display armor sets and saddles in your home for fast access. So it was possible, I guess. Now I know this isn't the same game or the same engine and isn't meant as a direct criticism of the devs. I know things are always harder than we imagine as players. I just don't like this idea where they try to play it like it's impossible. This was a kid with no experience who just created it on his free time. Then they talked about how it might even take longer because players will want to save their attributes for each set and weapon specs and all of that. Now, if that's what they are going for, it will take a while. That's not quite it though. I don't think anyone expects that. That's a whole other thing. Saving our builds is huge and will take a lot of time. I think what people want, to be honest, is just an easier way to sort gear, a way to access gear for specific ward types, crafting, whatever, without having to dig through our crazy storage. It seems to me they're just nervous and overthinking it. Now, I can understand this with New World. We have seen that changing things in terms of our house decor has caused chaos, so I completely understand why they want to take it slow. Then finally they talked about adding new weapons and why it takes so long. They addressed the thing most overlooked, and that is of course that new weapons isn't in fact just a weapon. It's also 1,000 new weapons, adding name variants, new skins, new animations, new quests. The list goes on and on, as you can imagine. Adding a new weapon is a huge undertaking, and I don't think they should take this lightly. It changes everything. In this category, I 100% agree and understand with their reasoning. The last thing we need right now is a new weapon. The ones we have are in desperate need of rebalancing as it is. Overall, I guess this was a good video, but I do think they missed the mark a little as to why the community is upset. They are addressing the symptoms of the issue without really understanding what's causing it, at least from my perspective. As people grow more discontented, they start complaining about everything. Not enough features, we need more of this, we need less of that, more maps, swimming, boats, the list goes on. I have said this in many other videos and I will say it again. The core issue to all of these complaints, people quitting, all of it comes from a lack of transparency and the sloppy way they announce things without considering the fallout. Let me explain better with a recent example. They make a dev video where they very casually say they don't like the current light meta, and they plan to change how resilience and shirking fort work on light armor, making it less effective. Then they immediately change the subject completely after saying it'll be on the next PTR. Well, as everyone knows, the current PvP meta is exactly that. And people have invested literally millions of coin in that gear. And there are others who build their entire gameplay around crafting and flipping that gear. One of the most valuable items to farm recently has been, of course, as you know, squirming vines, which many people do farm. However, the moment that was announced, people stopped crafting. Those who have it got worried. The sales on vines dropped. Basically, half of what people are doing in the game on a daily basis froze in anticipation of what exactly this change to light would affect. No one wants to make gear that costs a fortune to make only to have it be useless. Then they released the deeply anticipated PTR, and nothing, just leaderboards. Nothing is on it about changes, no information about the change yet, nothing, we all sit waiting. This has frustrated so many people, and that's when people start nitpicking and complaining, when they're frustrated. No one's getting excited about rolling gear now, or farming. They simply are sitting in town waiting for information, growing more and more discontent every day. It truly is an unfortunate situation. The game is in a better place than it ever has been. The devs are working on great new stuff that will be coming in the next 3 to 4 months. We should be excited, but we aren't. They need to make the next Forged in Eternum and talk about exactly their plans with the balances and the gear changes. Explain how it'll affect the gear weights and perks so that we know. Then we can all have fun again. Get out of this paranoid limbo and start moving forward. So I don't know about you guys, but for me, the biggest issue in New World isn't the devs, isn't the game itself, it's the poorly done patch notes, spotty information that we have to almost decode, and the lack of clarity. If they would address those things and fix that, I think we would see a huge shift in the game, the community, and the player numbers. Because I don't know about you, but I still do enjoy New World. I still play every day. But with the crafting system that is so impacted by RNG that it costs almost 300k to craft a decent piece of gear, I want to know 100% what's changing and why, so I don't blow months of gameplay on a set that's completely made useless with the next patch. Okay guys, well, that's all for this one. I do think New World is heading in the right direction in terms of gameplay and features. All I want to see is the information on these changes and changes to come. And as always guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.